Welcome to NFL Live on a Tuesday. This is how Wild Card Weekend finished up between the Vikings and the Rams. Of course, it was in Arizona as the game got moved. Races. Darnold sacked again. The plan worked so well. Everything that LA wanted to do.
Joe, for the Eagles, do not blitz Stafford. He will make you pay.
Let's go here to the third quarter.
Under duress again. Finally get in the end zone. Don't get the two-pointer. But this was a one-sided game from the start.
Here's Sean McVay after the win.
I think this truly epitomizes a team win. Yep. You talk about a connected group. You talk about a team that said all week, go for this. That's exactly what you guys came out and did, man. Unbelievable. And all you guys did, you represented exactly what we wanted to be about, man. A city that's going through a lot of different stuff that can look to you guys and say, I'm proud of that group. City on her back. Just being your guys' self right there, man. Give it up for yourselves right there.
Oh, I have chills. It's pretty special to see what the Rams were able to do, certainly as their hearts were with LA the entire week. The Rams defense put up a monster team effort on Monday. We just showed you the highlight, but they had 20 players finish with at least one tackle, 8 of them getting tackles for loss. 12 Rams had at least one pressure on Darnold. They generated 23 pressures total. That's the most Darnold's faced in his career. And 8 Rams had at least half a sack, the most in a playoff game since individual sacks became an official stat in 1982. I'll add one more. The Rams' 9 sacks is a playoff record for their organization. As we welcome you to the show, Dan Orlovsky, Andrew Hawkins, Marcus Spears here. Dan Graziano is here a little bit later on with some news. The wave means we can really get it going. Dan, how did the Rams defense dominate last night? We'll get to the Darnold side of things later, but let's give the Rams credit.
I thought they whooped the Vikings offensive line, completely outmatched, outclassed them. I thought Kevin O'Connell in many ways, surprisingly, got outcoached. It was really smart with how they created one-on-ones. It was a little bit like what the Detroit Lions did. Wide defensive tackles, super wide defensive end. The linebackers walked up over the center's head. He's just occupying time. He's actually going to pretend or play the running back in man-to-man coverage. So you create one-on-ones versus the tackles. You double-team Justin Jefferson inside and outside. Everybody else is playing physical man coverage. One of those one-on-ones has got to win. That's that first pass of the game situation for the Rams. The second thing is, I love the anticipated stuff. Under center, what the Vikings love to do. Run the football or go play action. 5 defensive linemen. But the cut split up top tells the corner, hey, this is how they're going to be run or play action. We call this cat trigger, cat corner. You become the blitzer. Nobody accounts for him. He's completely untouched, and there's no way to get the ball down the field by Sam Darnold. The fumble return for the touchdown, another brilliant opportunity. This is diabolical. 3 D linemen with their hands in the ground. Verse standing up. The linebacker walked up. What does that do? Again, create one-on-ones. Here comes the nickel pressure off the top of the screen. Both the Verse and the linebacker drop. And then Witherspoon's just hanging. Once he sees Hawkinson chip, he's the trigger guy because the nickel is going to be picked up by that back, and they're off to the races. I've been thinking about this all day because it was so impressive to watch the plan. And I thought to myself, I was telling Hawk, Kevin O'Connell came from where? The Los Angeles Rams. Yep. He's going to use very similar protections. Sean McVay, I guarantee, went to Chris Shula, the defensive coordinator, and said, this is how you can take advantage of those protections and understand how they're going to try to answer the questions you present, and then you have a second question that they don't have an answer for.
I figured you was going to be super excited about that defensive performance. That's why I didn't do a tape.
Attaboy.
And I could have done 45 plays on defense in this game. That was super impressive. But, you know, we talked about this yesterday, Dio and Hawk, when we were in Phoenix. And I'm not just talking about the ability to beat blocks and pressure. It was also the plan was make Sam Darnold beat us. I felt the same way about the Detroit plan. And we were all like, okay, he probably see this again because football, obviously a copycat league. How will he adjust? The one thing that I thought, Dio, to your point with Kevin O'Connell, there should have been in the second half a little bit of movement of the pocket for Sam Darnold. There should have been a little bit of slowing down this defensive line as a quick game, as opposed to they rushed north and south the entire game. Yeah. You never gave them anything else to look at. And the other part was, to the Rams' credit, they took Detroit's defensive game plan. Yeah. That was a carbon copy of what happened to them last week. And I think the whole premise around it, Dio, beyond Kevin O'Connell, because we have a tremendous amount of respect for him, was they came into that game saying, if we can rattle Sam Darnold, we can take over this game from a defensive standpoint. And it looked a lot like it looked against the Lions.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, Marcus. Sam Darnold was rattled. And this is a team, when you watch this game film, you could see a team that did not handle pressure in any definition.
Yeah.
No matter how you put it. The receivers weren't getting open down the field. To your point, there was no help for Sam in the game plan mounting. You could tell Sam was playing not to make mistakes, which made him a tick slow in his decision-making, hesitant when things are open, not trusting like we've typically seen him do throughout the season, and also he was inaccurate, right? So all these things mounted up, and to your point about Sean McVay and the gamesmanship of knowing exactly what their game plan was and how to combat it, there was something to it.
Yeah.
Hawk, to your point, bro, and it feel like I'm piling on. The throw to Hockenson for the touchdown was awful.
Yeah.
Like, and that was one of those opportunities where he had to actually pinpoint the football. I looked at that game and felt so bad for Sam Darnold, not only from a coaching perspective, but they threw the book out there that you could rattle him. And for the second time in a row, we saw him not be able to respond in that situation.
Okay, we will talk more about Sam Darnold later on in the show, so stay tuned for that. Also, it is worth reminding people how good Matthew Stafford was. The credit goes to the defense, certainly, but I don't want to leave this without saying Stafford was amazing.
Stafford was Stafford.
And if he can keep that up, I don't know, watch out for this team in the playoffs. They'll play Philly. We'll see if they can advance beyond that, but he probably has eyes on Detroit, too. Okay, more to come here. Let's get to top stories with Dan Graziano. And, Graz, let's start with Mike McCarthy. He's done in Dallas. So what's next for the now former Cowboys head coach?
Laura, he'll be free to talk to any team he wants after midnight tonight. That's when the Cowboys' exclusive negotiating window with him expires. We anticipate that he will talk to the Chicago Bears at some point this week, possibly as early as tomorrow. They have expressed some interest. As we know, last week the Cowboys denied their request to talk to him. They were still trying to figure out a deal. Now that they will be free as of tomorrow to talk to him, I would expect him to get an interview with the Bears. Also possible he'll get some interest from the Saints, where he has some history, and we'll see what else in terms of the other openings that there are out there. In terms of who will succeed Mike McCarthy in Dallas, our Adam Schefter has reported that Jerry Jones has had conversations with Colorado head coach Deion Sanders, who, of course, was a superstar player for the Cowboys a while back. Where this heads, no one seems to know, including Deion, based on the conversation that he had with Adam last night. But interesting, certainly, that Jerry Jones would be reaching out. We have not yet heard of any other candidates that the Cowboys have requested permission to speak to or expressed interest in. So that could indicate that Jerry's trying to go a little outside the box for this hire before he does some more traditional NFL interviews.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. It's going to be fascinating to see how it all shakes out. And Marcus, what do you think? Are Deion and the Cowboys a good match?
I think it is a good fit, Boogie. And for the sake of moving this forward and not being super repetitive about what Jerry is and his staple in the building, I kind of want to talk about the coach and what he would have to do when he got to Dallas. The two things that I've seen from Prime, and a year ago, y'all, I wouldn't have been a proponent of Deion Sanders being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. But you've looked over time from Jackson State, he built a high school here in Dallas all the way to Colorado. And not only is Prime and his cachet a part of this conversation, but I think we got to get to the foundational part of why I think this is a good fit, because he understands how to build a team, he understands how to relate, and he understands how to get guys to play for him and also delegate responsibility. The staff that he put together at Colorado was pretty solid. A lot of guys wouldn't have took that job if obviously Deion Sanders wasn't the head coach of that university. But there is a part of this when you start talking about Deion being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys of a new infusion of juice. And I like what Graz ended with. It's completely different than the conventional hires that he's made the previous 3 times. We talk about, 4, Bill Parcells, Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, and then ending with Mike McCarthy. I think this would set a new course from a standpoint of a coach with a different train of thought when he takes this job with Deion becoming the coach, possibly.
Listen, if he's going to go become the head coach, that's awesome. If I'm the Raiders or the Browns, I'm calling them to try and trade for Dak Prescott. Because then in Deion's words, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yep.
Deion said the only way he's going to go coach in the NFL is if he's coaching his sons in multiple. So that means Shador and Shiloh. So if he's going to go and Jerry Jones is going to give him what he wants and they're going to try to make a play to go draft Shador, then if you're Dak Prescott, you're like, I'm not staying here. So then if I'm a team and this becomes a reality, I'm already ahead of this trying to see if I can trade for Dak Prescott. I also think this is a unique locker room then because you are very much so saying, hey, coach, you do quite literally whatever you want. And if it works out, great, but if I'm the quarterback, I want out as soon as possible.
I mean, I know he said that. That doesn't make any sense for the Cowboys to trade Dak Prescott.
I'm sure there's rules and dead cap space, and I think there's a no trade clause in Dak's contract.
That would be crazy.
You're right,
but you're
though.
not staying if he's the head coach, if that's the case.
He said it out loud. Yeah,
he has said that. And honestly, if I'm a player on a team, I don't know as a wide receiver if I would want to play for a team where my quarterback's dad is the head coach. But moving on from that, I would say that Shador in and of himself is positioned himself as the top quarterback in the draft on his own merit. His dad, I'm like Marcus, I might not have been a believer years ago that he would be able to step into an NFL locker room. And that might have been true because we've seen him build programs, and I think that experience is significant. That being said,
he can coach.
He can coach. And I think the Cowboys is the perfect place for a Deion because of the respect that you'll get from your team immediately. He has that kind of presence. The respect that he would demand from Jerry Jones because Deion Sanders does not carry himself in a way that does not allow you to respect him no matter what the situation is. And this role and this opening specifically needs a very particular kind of coach who can definitely take in what Jerry Jones is as an owner, his ability to, yes, make the Dallas Cowboys a brand that everybody loves, but just know there's going to be distractions. That stuff doesn't affect Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I also think, Hawk,
it doesn't affect him.
And I also think, Marcus, for some reason, I do believe the coach and the quarterback, the father and the son could work. I just think there's something with they've always been together. I'm sure he's always been very hard on him. And I know the NFL is different. There's something about that relationship that you've viewed that I do think it can work in the NFL.
I would feel a lot differently about it if they didn't already have Dak Prescott. I mean, that's the only thing. Like, I agree.
If it happens, your dad.
We've heard a lot of things said in this league that didn't materialize, and people still ended up happy. I'm gonna just throw that out there. I get what you're saying, but we've been on this show long enough to know that sometimes what they say is not absolutely what they mean.
That's a sage reminder from Swagoo. You know, he's been around.
Wisdom.
Right. We got more coming your way. A lot of wisdom and other things on NFL Live. We're just getting started, okay? The Chiefs are back in action on their quest for a three-peat. But can the Texans' pass rush disrupt this high-powered offense? Swagoo thinks so. Plus, after losing 5 straight games and another early playoff exit, is it time for Mike Tomlin to move on from Pittsburgh? Hawk thinks so. He'll explain why. NFL Live is brought another strong defensive performance to beat the reigning champs. With their effort last week, they have the highest defensive efficiency in the NFL. They'll be going up against a Chiefs offense that ranks 8th in efficiency, and of course we know about Patrick Mahomes. Both are in the top 10 in touchdown to turnover ratio, while they each rank 3rd on third down conversions. The Chiefs converted 7 of their 13 third downs in their Week 16 matchup. Here's Mahomes earlier today on Saturday's matchup with Houston.
What everybody's kind of known. I mean, that defense is extremely real. They have a great quarterback and a great coach, and we knew when we played them this last time it was a hard-fought game, and they get after the quarterback really well. They have really good secondary players, and the linebackers fly around. So it'll be a great challenge for us, and we'll have to play our best football.
Yeah, Dan, the Texans defense absolutely destroyed the Chargers. What stood out to you about their scheme there and how they played?
Yeah, I mean, they put 5 guys across the line of scrimmage, and they wanted Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson to destroy the football game, both in the run and the pass. And I think that's going to be a big-time challenge for the Kansas City Chiefs is when they put those 5 guys across. Because here's the thing. When you do this defensively, you got to be able to play man coverage, and the Texans are capable of it. And these 2 guys on the outside, Will Anderson specifically, he just wants to destroy plays, and he's just going to try to blow up wherever it is, whether it's in the protection game or in the pass game. And then the internal stuff where they can create some one-on-ones. Remember, Danico Autry's there. And Autry in their internal rush game is a big problem. And so I'm going to be very interested to see how Kansas City handles these guys, because when they get those creative matchups or they try to take advantage of them with the man coverage, which is something Kansas City has struggled with, This is going to be advantage Houston defense. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for Kansas City. Handling that 5-man front, handling those two just heavy-handed, almost freight trains on the outside while also dealing with pretty legit sticky man coverage.
You nailed it, man. Their defensive line absolutely deserves the game ball. Number one, game ball number two should go to the defensive backs.
Golly,
because they lock down on the outside, specifically against Ladd McConkey, who's such a great route runner.
Yeah.
Here you're going to see Miles Bryant going against Ladd McConkey, and you're going to see him do that sail route that we broke down on this show, where you go inside, give him something hard inside to get out. They're locking on it. You could tell that they were in the film room, they knew the tendencies, and they had a plan for it. The next play is going to be Kamari Lassiter on the outside against Quentin Johnson. A very similar route concept, but it's a big play. Inside release, hard fake inside to go big throw. These are throws that Justin Herbert has made his money on this year. Not only that, he's hand on them, find the ball, get the ball. That is a textbook play from their corner. And lastly, it's going to go back to Bryant against Ladd McConkey again, and also Lassiter. They're going to top hat this, which means the point man is going to actually have the guy in the back, and the corner is going to have the point man. Perfect operation that at the switch release, they're able to locate and lock down. This is on the 4th and 2.
Yeah.
Not only that, Derek Stingley Jr. up front, up top, physical at the line of scrimmage, so the route depth isn't even there enough for a first down. On 3rd downs, 4th downs, the D-line was getting after Justin Herbert, and the guys on the back end were bringing their A game too.
You know what gives me a little bit concerned about this game, Kansas City's perspective? That's exactly what the Browns did to the Chiefs like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And while the Chiefs won, that was the 5 or 6 interception game, it felt like, from Jameis, and they did not perform well. I'd also say this. It gets a lot of flack, and rightfully so in many ways. Azeez Al-Shire matters on this defense because his ability to get downhill in the run game and hit people changes at least the feel of their defense.
Yeah.
I'm super interested, fellas, and everything y'all just said about this defense is right on task. The only problem is Andy Reid and his ability after a damn bye week technically or being off. And then I can guarantee you this, between Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, and I know that both you gotta account for both of them, but we've seen Kansas City make a living leaving an edge alone and ignoring him. And I want to see how Houston is going to adjust
put him in conflict,
to that up front. Absolutely. And we see him do. We saw him do it to Bosa. We saw him do it to all of these elite guys that on the edge, and it's always a different scheme. Obviously, we know that when they get into the playoffs. What's going to be interesting for me is where Hawk was. Because if you ain't got nowhere to throw the ball, you ain't got nowhere to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And we've seen Pat give it away a little bit more than usual this season, obviously trying to build that rapport with his wide receivers. The keys for me are how will the Houston Texans defense handle when you have Will Anderson or Danielle Hunter, whoever Andy Reid and Matt Nagy decides to let that guy be the guy that we ignore technically and put him in conflict. And also on the back end, how do you handle the slot? Because we talk about Lassiter, and I just saw you talk about Bryant, but we talk about Lassiter. I think they are going to stay away from Derek Stingley. But whether you decide what you do with Travis Kelce with a safety or whether you decide what you do with Marquise Brown, I think that's going to be the story of the game between those two guys in the passing game.
Something else that I think is huge. Andy Reid said the Chiefs would rotate DJ Humphries and Joe Thuney at left tackle in practice this week before making the decision about who's going to start against the Texans.
He's going to pay me enough to not start Joe Thuney.
Right, but I don't know. The left tackle spot's been a question mark for them this season.
I mean, his whole plan is going to be to stay out of 3rd and long.
Yeah.
That's going to be Andy Reid's whole plan.
Yep.
All right, well, we're going to be talking about that game a whole lot more before Saturday as well, but it's going to be a fascinating one. It's on ABC and ESPN, by the way, as we told you. Coming up, a disappointing playoff loss to Baltimore leaves the Steelers with question marks in the offseason. Do the Steelers keep Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, or both? You don't want to miss what Mike Tomlin had to say about it. That's next, right here on NFL Live. Russell Wilson's year started promising, but did not end that way. Overall, his best production came against teams with losing records, going 3-1 while throwing 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in those games. Against teams with winning records, he finished 3-5, and his QBR ranked in the bottom 10. Here's Mike Tomlin today.
I'm certainly disappointed that I'm not working to prepare to play this week, and I've certainly felt that in recent years. But stuck is kind of a helpless feeling, and I don't know that I feel helpless. I'd imagine there's going to be some things that change around here on a lot of levels. We don't have a quarterback under contract, and so we got some major discussions there. It was a really good experience with the 3 quarterbacks that were on our roster this year. And the major work, obviously, starts first and foremost with just understanding what our options are.
Graz is back with us. Graz, what is the plan at head coach and quarterback for the Steelers going forward?
Laura, as I understand it, the plan at head coach is Mike Tomlin. The Steelers gave him a contract extension last offseason, and I've been told nothing to indicate that they are dissatisfied with him, and he sounds like he is planning to move forward as their coach. So, do things change sometimes? Sure, but as of now, it does not seem like there's a change there. At quarterback, I don't believe there's a single rock that they can turn over that they won't turn over. I think literally everything is on the table. They're just now starting off-season preparations, and of course they were hoping they wouldn't have to start them this soon. They could keep Russell Wilson. They could keep Justin Fields. They could keep both. They could let go of both. They could go out and, try and sign Sam Darnold. They could try and trade for Kirk Cousins. Every name you could possibly hear on the quarterback market is going to be somebody the Steelers consider. They have to get the position right. As usual, they are not drafting particularly high in the draft. So if you take a shot on a quarterback at that point, it's a little bit, higher risk, as the Kenny Pickett pick from a couple years ago shows. So the Steelers know they have to get that right, and that their success going forward will be tied in large part to when they find the answer finally at that position.
Yeah, great stuff, Graz. I mean, Huck, it sounds like Tomlin's going to stay, and maybe he should. If he does, what does the future look like for him in Pittsburgh?
I think that's the biggest question. Should he want to stay? Yeah. And that is not an indictment on him or the Steelers organization. I'm the biggest fan of the Rooney family and the Steelers. I grew up in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. A-plus first class in every capacity.
You're one of those Yinzer people?
I'm a Yinzer. People don't know that about me. But
I didn't know what it was till McAfee.
Hawk is full of fun facts.
Full of fun facts. And the same goes for Mike Tomlin. Incredible coach. The reality is he's too good of a coach to get a quarterback that he needs to contend in the AFC. It's going to go through Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes. Man. So if you don't have one of those guys, it's going to be very, very difficult to get over this hump.
Well, that's why they can't win the playoffs.
It's as simple as that, right? And you're too good of a coach to ever be in position to get anybody close to that. And you could do it with a Russell Wilson or kind of a mid-tier quarterback, but that means you're going to need a big dog at running back. You're going to need a bona fide number 1, which they don't have in George Pickens. He's a number 2 right now. Does he have elite skills to be a number 1? Yes. But there is development and maturation that needs to happen for him as a football player to be in that spot. So as it stands, if I'm Mike Tomlin, I am entertaining that, well, maybe we should go our separate ways. So maybe I get to a spot where I have a quarterback. And also the Pittsburgh Steelers would inevitably probably take a step back for a step forward for them to get in the spot to get a quarterback.
Reminder that Tomlin has a no-trade clause, so he would control a lot of this if he did want to step away, for sure. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, the only real way to fix it is to have the Steelers do something which they've really never done, and that's take assets in the draft to move up to go get a quarterback. You got to remember, when they got Ben, it was like the middle of the draft when they selected Ben Roethlisberger, so it wasn't like they took – hey, we were the 26th pick and we traded up to the 3rd pick to go Ben. That's the reality of where they are. They don't, to your point, the quarterback conversation in the comparison, they don't have a chance to meet the standard until they have a quarterback that can elevate the standard. Yep. They're always going against quarterbacks that do. Mike Tomlin's always like, well, we got to play against Mr. Lamar Jackson. You don't have anybody that's in the same class.
And their defense fell off a little bit too, right?
Totally, yes, but that's oftentimes, the defense did fall off a little bit, but that's a little bit attached to the offense being so inept in many ways and the defense constantly being out there. The question is going to be this. Are you willing as an organization to start a new philosophy, to start a new thought process of how you go about doing things? Because if you don't, crossing your fingers to get an elite franchise quarterback at the 24th pick is just unrealistic.
Well, first of all, it's timing, too. I agree with both of you guys, but who's there? Like, are you going to try to trade up, and do you think Shador is that guy where you could give away assets? The problem here, hey, y'all, I want to remind y'all, since Hawk is a Steelers fan, you know why we here? Because they held on to Ben Roethlisberger too long.
But they didn't have a plan after Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, they didn't have a.
That's the point.
Correct.
That's the point, Dio. That's the point I'm making, because we killed, not me, but a lot of people killed Green Bay for making a decision when they had a Hall of Fame quarterback in position. And we've seen this revolving cycle. Obviously, they drafted Kenny Pickett. They thought that would work out. It didn't work out. You miss on more quarterbacks than you hit on them. So we find them in this ever-revolving cycle of, well, what are we going to do this year at quarterback? We know the quarterback is not going to be good enough with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson in your division. So to your point, Dio, and I 100% agree, it's got to be a philosophical change. You got to play football a different way if you're going to try to compete with those guys.
This is why so many of us really felt so convicted about continuing with Justin Fields this year. Because then at least you'd have a decision. Yeah. At least you'd have information. Right now, you're still in limbo of, well, we don't know.
Still
Russell, you don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas at least if Justin had played, maybe you don't make but at least you know what he can be.
It was also so weird because when Russ came in, he played really well for a little bit and then fell off some. So it's hard to really figure the whole thing out. But the Steelers certainly are in a situation where they need to get some answers.
Yeah.
All right, new on
Rock
NFL
in the
Live.
hard place.
I know, right? That's well said, Swag. Our Jeremy Fowler with this news out of Cleveland. The Browns have reached an agreement with assistant coach Tommy Rees as offensive coordinator per a source. Remember, he was with Alabama, then went to the Browns, and then now will be their OC. Still ahead on NFL Live, Scary Terry put on a performance against the Bucs defense Sunday, and Dan's back with the virtual goggles showing us how it all went down. I promise you don't want to miss this. It's coming your way next on NFL Live. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We are tied at 2020.
The playoffs are amped up a little bit more.
This is a winning time moment. Snap to Daniels. He's going to run to his right.
Dives for the first down to the 15.
We're not going to give up to the clock hit zero.
Kick on its way. It is good.
The Cardiac Commanders are the Clutch Commanders. We'll see you in Detroit.
I can still remember the scouting report. Elite processor, wiry frame, but a big arm, and the kid never rattles. Dan Orlovsky was a draft prospect to remember. And I don't know if you've been watching, but this Jaden Daniels guy is elite too. How good is he? Dan's going to show us a play from his perspective thanks to next-gen stats and the Status Pro Visualizer, which allows the recreation of the play exactly as it happened in the game. Dan, go to work.
Yeah, Hawk, you mentioned it's the right throw at the right time in the right moment, the game winner. I want to go become Jaden Daniels here, okay? So this is the 4th and goal, essential game winner. And I want to start everything with players over plays. Terry McLaurin by himself. I want to throw him the ball. So as a quarterback, Jaden gets the line of scrimmage. The first thing is, do I have a pressure issue where I'm going to be hot? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 defensive linemen. I'm not anticipating a pressure issue. Now, what's the coverage? Because I would love to throw the ball to McLaurin one-on-one, but as a quarterback, you peek out there and there's Antoine Winfield Jr., safety. You're like, okay, maybe not, and there's another safety there. So I'm thinking a middle field open zone defense. Well, where's the best place in this situation to attack that? It's going to be just kind of this back quadrant of the end zone. Now, 2 things are really important when you're going to do that. I want to go in this space, okay? Number 1, if you're going to throw this ball, we want the receiver to be 2 yards from the out-of-bounds marker so it gives us the most space. And then the second part is, as a quarterback, we say belt or lower, face mask or higher on the throw. Let's go back to being Jaden Daniels. The concept is going to be this. I want Terry McLaurin, we would call this sometimes Hoosier, back end line, and it's almost like I want to throw that ball as a basketball up high. That's that little bit of the back end line in route. And then the most important part of this is Austin Eckler. Eckler's going to get out in what we call a quick check down. Now, knowing it's a zone defense, Jaden Daniels, one of 2 things. He's got to, in the huddle, say, Austin, you got to get out quickly for me if there's no blitz issue. And then you get to the line of scrimmage, and as you scan this area and say, I'm not anticipating a pressure, remind Austin, I need you to get out quickly, because here's the thing. This route by Terry McLaurin, you got to win on the route versus that corner, okay? The main guy to impact is that inside linebacker, because if this inside linebacker gets depth, well, then the check down by Eckler is the only option. But the goal is to get this linebacker to pay attention to Austin Eckler with his vision as he gets out, and then Jaden Daniels has the opportunity to throw that ball behind. So this guy tells the quarterback what to do. If he hangs back, he's going to throw the ball to the back. If he pays attention to the back at all, I got the chance to throw that in route to Terry McLaurin, okay? So everybody pay attention to Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels drops back, and he's going to have vision, okay? And this linebacker kind of straightens up. All right, I got a chance, but I really want to throw the ball into the end zone. It's 4th and goal. And as Antoine Winfield Jr. kind of vertically straightens up, he doesn't get back to this area, Terry McLaurin becomes a viable option. Now, here's the linebacker. If I'm Jaden Daniels, I want to sell to this linebacker. I'm throwing the ball to Austin Eckler. I'm staring right at him. I need you to jump up in anticipation. I'm going to throw this check down and throw that ball to Terry McLaurin. Watch 45. He starts to drive right now, and I want to go be Terry McLaurin, okay? If you're Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels is starting to let go of that ball, and you see this linebacker driving, okay? Remember, I expect this ball, if you're McLaurin, to be where? I want it to be right on my face mask, okay? So I want to go be this area. Let's see if you're, from Terry McLaurin's perspective, where this ball is. It is perfectly right on his face mask. Remember, belt or lower, face mask or higher. That linebacker says there's the vacated space, and it's a beautiful throw from Jaden Daniels. Now let's go full speed so everyone gets a great perspective of what Jaden's paying attention to. Remember, gets to the line of scrimmage, sees that there's no pressure issue. Hey, Austin, let's get out really quickly so you can impact that linebacker. Terry McLaurin, you got to go win your route one-on-one. See how quickly Jaden Daniels, with the game on the line, must touchdown opportunity, how quickly he reads this route and throws a perfectly placed ball. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. Ball out, touchdown, Washington. We're on to Detroit. Jaden Daniels is special. He's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. His connection with Terry McLaurin's as good as there is in the NFL. The Detroit Lions are a great football team. They got to stop that duo to advance.
That was his 5th go-ahead passing touchdown this season in the 4th quarter or overtime, which is tied for the most by a rookie in NFL history. We'll see if he can keep that going and maybe take the sole lead in the divisional round.
Man.
Great work, Dan. Fresh, bro.
Oh, just incredible. All right, still to come on NFL Live. After losing,
so cool.
That was so cool. After losing 2 straight games in the season, where does this leave Sam Darnold's future?
Play action, Stanford on the move, stops, finds his man, touchdown Williams. Darnold's in trouble and down he goes. Darnold slings it and he's picked.
And our defense just went crazy and was attacking the quarterback.
Everything that could go wrong for Minnesota has gone for the touchdown. What a night for Chris Shula's defense.
Great to just come out here and play aggressive.
Really special to see what the Rams pulled off. Let's zero in on the Vikings a little bit, though. After being great most of the season, Sam Darnold's season ends on a sour note. In his last 2 games, he threw just 1 touchdown, and over a quarter of his attempts were off target. He was also sacked 9 times Monday night and had an interception and fumble. Kevin O'Connell was asked about Darnold's performance after the game.
I think it's important that we look at it really 2 ways. You know, football-wise, playing the position of quarterback, you know, areas that we can really focus on to improve, areas as an offense where we can pick our quarterback up. With a little bit of execution, give him another click when it is a 4-man route. We've got to find a way to look at it from that standpoint. But also, I just want to say, you know, I think it's very important we all think about, you know, Sam's body of work.
All right, just one quick point before we talk about Darnold. Kevin O'Connell is one of the best coaches, I believe, in the NFL right now. I don't think that's a hot take at all, but the way that he encourages, the way that he looks at things with a reasonable perspective, pretty special. Now, Graz, that said, how much did these last 2 games impact Darnold's future?
I mean, I think a lot because, you know, if the Vikings were wrestling with a decision on whether to, how much to commit to him with J.J. McCarthy still in the wings, obviously this is going to be the quarterback on the free agent market that had the best season of any of them. And as a result of that, he's going to get interest. And it may be at a level the Vikings aren't comfortable with, given that they want to move on to J.J. McCarthy at some point. So do you franchise him? Do you franchise him with the intent to trade him? Do you let him go and find another bridge guy for Kevin O'Connell to work with the way he did with Darnold this year? There are people in that building who are concerned, like, do we let a 27-year-old quarterback who just had this kind of season leave and get nothing for him? That's possible, but it's also possible they'll find a way to make sure that they do get something in return if he does end up leaving this offseason.
Yeah, it's interesting. Important to remember that J.J. McCarthy's been around the facility, but a lot of that's been working on getting healthy and hasn't been necessarily as connected as you might imagine a player would be recovering from an injury. Dan, what did you learn, what did we learn about Sam Darnold over the last couple weeks?
He's not a quarterback you win because of. Now, those are rare in this league. And those are the ones when they go to the negotiation table, the number can't be big enough. Okay, I think that Sam Darnold has unequivocally proven this year Smith type of player that as long as there's good pieces around him, the offensive line, a good skill play, you're going to win a lot of games with Sam Darnold. But I do think it is fair to say that over the last 2 weeks, he had the opportunity to say, no, I'm a quarterback you win because of. Yeah. And I don't think he did that.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that if I'm the Minnesota Vikings, and this was a hard decision at one point in the season, I think you continue on with J.J. McCarthy. I think that's what it shows you. Now, that's not an indictment on Sam or the year that he had. I think it got to the must-win games where everything was on the line, and that's tough for quarterbacks. And that's the first time Sam has been in that situation. So I'm giving him the grace there that maybe he reverted back a little bit because the pressure and how you take in that and have a different output is something you learn over time. That being said, trust what you believed at the beginning in J.J. McCarthy. You invested a draft pick, a top 10 pick in this quarterback because you believe him to be a franchise guy. I don't think that changes. Sam should get what he deserves on the open market, but the Vikings go on with your gut.
Oh, that's the point. That's the point. And I like what you said, Dio. Those comparisons with G.
You have your microphone on?
My bad. My mic ain't even on. My mic ain't on.
Hey, I want to hear what you had to say, not the echo chamber.
I actually like the way your voice sounds when it's distant.
Oh.
My bad. Excuse the wire. My point is, like, with the J.J. McCarthy of it all is what makes it different with Geno and Baker. Baker backup was Kyle Trask, I believe. I don't even know who Geno's backup is. I'm sorry. I don't know that. The other thing is this too, man. Like, Kevin O'Connell is a part of the reason why Sam Darnold is going to have a hard time returning back to Minnesota. And it's because he is such a good head coach. And it's because that quarterback specifically that they drafted was the one that Kevin O'Connell was excited about. Like, I don't think we have to take away what Sam Darnold did this year in a negative way. It's definitely going to help him be on another team. But I think these last 2 games probably swayed the Minnesota Vikings into saying, we got a real belief in our head coach that he can develop quarterbacks, get them to play at a very high level, and they go invest that in J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, the trade-off with moving on from Sam Darnold is you have more space to spend money, more money to go spend on your roster. There's also the grass may not be greener, and you would then be getting rid of a guy that certainly galvanized the locker room, certainly took advantage of an opportunity, and also, as much as I think highly of J.J. McCarthy, you got to go do it the same way that Sam Darnold did, and you could take a step back next year production-wise.
One thing I thought was interesting, when we talked to Sam ahead of this game last night, he said that these were the biggest 2 games of his career.
They'll try again, 2nd and 10. They'll fake the handoff. Now Smith. And he's taken down. This will be a Brown sack.
Okay, you know my bias is about to come out here. A lot of people think that the offense is just moving in the wrong direction. I'd say they're moving in the right direction because the defense is pushing them back.
Former defensive guy. Now, as a quarterback 3rd and long, you really got to rally the troops here, don't you?
Yeah, you're doing a big way, and what else do you have to look out for? More pressure coming at you because it seems to be working pretty well.
3rd and long, it's Smith escaping the pressure right. Slings this deep. This is caught inside the 15. And he takes it in. Touchdown, Washington.